In the last episode, Tyler completed his transformation into a werewolf. Meanwhile, Stefan was trapped in the tomb while trying to save Jeremy. Bonnie sought Luca's help and successfully destroyed the moonstone.
Hey, I'm Elijah.
Elijah, one of the originals, unexpectedly shows up at Elena's house. Without using any of his mind control abilities, he effortlessly charms Aunt Jenna into inviting him inside. Unbeknownst to Jenna, she has already invited many enemies into her home. Elijah's visit has a purpose. He wants to strike a deal with Elena. The reason he's been protecting her is that he plans to eliminate his evil brother, Klaus. Klaus is the most powerful member of the Originals family. As it turns out, Klaus has gone so far as to murder his own siblings to break his curse. Elijah, the only surviving brother, is determined not to let Klaus succeed. Since Elena is the key sacrifice needed by Klaus, Elijah vows to ensure her safety.
And then when the time is right, you and I shall draw Klaus out together, and I shall make certain that your friends remain unharmed.
And then what?
Then I kill him.
Just like that?
Just like that. I'm a man of my word, Elena.
Elena agrees to Elijah's deal. As a gesture of goodwill, Elijah rescues Stefan from the tomb and explains his agreement with Elena. Elijah not only promises to keep Elena safe but also vows to protect everyone she cares about. Katherine, too, attempts to escape from the tomb, but Elijah stops her. He uses mind control on Katherine, commanding her to stay inside the tomb. Katherine has been abandoned once again. Meanwhile, after receiving a challenge from the female werewolf Jules, Damon hides away in his mansion, anxiously waiting through the night, but Jules never shows up. As the full moon was about to wane, Damon let his guard down. Little does he know that the darkest hour is just before dawn. At that moment, a fierce wolf bursts into the room. It's Jules in her transformed state. Werewolves, after all, don't need an invitation to enter a home. In the nick of time, Rose steps in and takes the blow, saving Damon from the wolf's deadly jaws. After being injured by Damon, the wolf flees. They notice that Rose's werewolf bite is starting to heal, leading them to believe that the rumors about werewolf bites are false.
Rose, I'm happy that the legend was fake.
After this battle, Rose realizes she has fallen for this devoted yet dangerous man. Otherwise, why would she risk her life to save Damon? Even though Rose knows Damon's heart belongs to Elena, she still chooses to stay by his side, helping him protect the woman he loves. Meanwhile, Stefan, after gaining his freedom, heads straight for Elena's house. Poor Damon, loving Elena but unable to have her, can only protect her in silence. Similarly, Rose silently watches over Damon. Perhaps the two of them finding comfort in each other is some small consolation. However, none of them realize that a werewolf's bite doesn't kill a vampire immediately. It slowly poisons them to death. Rose's shoulder is already beginning to rot. This naked woman waking up in the wild isn't someone who's been left for dead. She's here to collect the bodies of the dead. In fact, Jules is a seductive she-wolf. Under last night's full moon, she transformed into a wolf and slaughtered a group of campers. The ground is littered with severed arms and legs, making it hard to imagine the brutality of last night's massacre. At that moment, a police officer on patrol arrives at the scene, and Jules quickly pretends to be a survivor. The officer is horrified by the carnage and immediately calls for backup, but he doesn't expect to be ambushed by Jules. Rumor has it that any vampire bitten by a werewolf is doomed, and Rose proved the truth of that legend with her own life. Rose's wound was rotting, and despite a vampire's extraordinary healing abilities, they were powerless against this kind of injury. Rose believes she doesn't have much time left. After all, she's lived for 560 years, more than enough, but what she regretted most was that she had only just found the man she loved. However, Damon tells Rose that her wound is gradually getting better. Just then, Elena shows up, and Damon asks her to take care of Rose while he goes out to find a cure for her. While Elena regretted what had happened to Rose, Damon acted very coldly.
We come, we go. Sooner she dies, the better. It's gloomy as hell in here.
Damon's coldness stems more from his own self-loathing. Recently, Caroline and Tyler have been growing closer, so Caroline reveals the truth that a vampire bitten by a werewolf will die. Tyler is deeply shocked, but at the same time, he's moved by Caroline's willingness to stay by his side, risking her own life. Just as Tyler is about to express his feelings further, Matt makes another attempt to win Caroline back. After all, Tyler is the third wheel, so to avoid any awkwardness, he decides to leave. Caroline still has feelings for Matt. She assures him that there's nothing between her and Tyler, and Matt believes her, but the secret of her being a vampire remains a barrier between them, keeping them in separate worlds. so Caroline decides to come clean to Matt about her true nature, but just as Caroline musters up the courage to tell him, a classmate comes looking for Matt. In the end, the opportunity was missed. Rose's condition continues to worsen, and knowing her time is short, she opens up to Elena. She confesses how much she envies Elena. After 500 years of running, Rose has finally found a place she can call home, only to have her life cut short. Rose gradually loses consciousness. Elena is about to leave, but suddenly, Rose hallucinates and mistakes Elena for Katherine. Fortunately, Rose regained consciousness just in time, but the reprieve is short-lived. And before long, Rose loses control again. When Elena finds her, Rose is in the basement, frantically feeding. To protect herself, Elena pulls down the curtains, causing Rose to scream in agony as she's burned by the sunlight. Elena seizes the opportunity to hide on the second-floor balcony, breaking apart a chair to use as a weapon. From outside the door, Rose's voice begs her, claiming she's regained control. At the bar, Damon stormed toward Jules in a rage, but Stefan stepped in to stop him, worried that his brother's impulsiveness might expose them. Despite the truth being written all over his face, Damon stubbornly insists otherwise.
Why does everyone think I'm upset about Rose? I'm fine. I don't know if you know this, sometimes vampires die.
Jules remains unfazed, even mocking Damon, saying, "It should have been you who died." Jules knew that Damon was there for the antidote, so she told Damon,
"Take a stake and drive it through her heart."
It wasn't until evening, when everything outside had been quiet for a long time, that Elena dared to step out. Just then, Damon returned, and they discovered that Rose was nowhere to be found. At the town's carnival, a vampire infected with werewolf venom had mingled with the crowd. She had been bitten by a werewolf and was beyond saving. Out of her mind, Rose attacked anyone she encountered, biting everyone in sight. Fortunately, Damon found Rose in time, and she gradually regained her senses. When Rose realized the massacre she had caused, she broke down, overwhelmed with guilt and remorse. Damon brought Rose back to the mansion. Rose is clearly on the verge of death. She said many good things about Damon to Elena, making one last tribute to the man she loves. Pain washed over Rose like a tidal wave, and she screamed, desperate for the suffering to end. At Damon's request, Elena left the room, as he had already made up his mind to end Rose's life. Meanwhile, when Caroline returned home, she found Tyler had been waiting for her for quite some time. Tyler didn't want to lose such a wonderful girl, so he impulsively kissed Caroline. Caroline went from being caught off guard to reciprocating, but then she suddenly remembered that Matt had kissed her earlier that day too. She pushed Tyler away.
Everyone just needs to stop kissing me.
In the final moments of her life, Rose, a vampire who had lived for over 500 years, rested in Damon's arms, as if the pain had eased significantly. Before driving a stake through Rose's heart, Damon created a beautiful dream for her. Under a blue sky, Rose runs through the pasture, which is her hometown. Damon stood quietly, gazing into the distance. Everything was so peaceful. Rose had always longed to go home, and Damon gently told her, "In this dream, you can see anyone you want to see." In the real world, Damon slowly withdrew his hand from Rose's tight grasp, then took out a wooden stake and aimed it at Rose's heart. The dream was forever frozen in time, and Rose died in happiness.
2.
Damon's second time crying was for the girl named Rose. The carnage of the night demanded an explanation, so Damon called Sheriff Forbes and used Rose's body to smooth things over. Even when Sheriff Forbes praised him, Damon didn't bother to fake a smile, because his heart was once again shattered. At the bar, Jules approached Tyler and informed him of Mason's death, which he couldn't accept. But when it rains, it pours. Jules pointed out that Mason's death was connected to Caroline, and that there were other vampires in the town. Since Tyler was a lone wolf who hadn't yet mastered the ability to sense vampires, Jules offered to invite him into her pack.
There are others like us, and they're on their way.
When Damon returned home, he found Elena still there, faced with her concern. Damon pretended to be indifferent, saying, "I don't care at all, okay?"
What sucks even more is that it was supposed to be me. Jules was coming after me.
Damon never wanted to show his vulnerable side. He craved affection but was afraid of being cared for. Elena didn't say much. She simply gave him a hug. Damon pressed his lips together, swallowing all his grief. When Elena returned home, she learned that Stefan had been rallying help everywhere to protect her. Gathering a sizable force, there was still no news from her birth mother, Isabel. but John had already come back. Given all the terrible things John had done, Elena still refused to acknowledge him as her father. Late at night, a woman driving down the highway spotted someone lying in the middle of the road. Was this person trying to get themselves killed? The kind-hearted woman approached to check, only to find a despondent Damon. Confused, the woman asked, "But you don't have to kill yourself."
Existentially.
If I remember correctly, this is exactly how Damon made his entrance in the first episode of the series. After all his wandering and heartbreak, he's back at square one, numbing himself by doing bad things. Sensing danger, the woman prepared to leave. Damon teleported to her in an instant, confiding his inner secrets to this unrelated woman. What he missed the most was the time when he was human. The truth is, Damon doesn't want others to have expectations of him because he's afraid of disappointing them. After a moment of struggle, Damon released the woman from his control. Have you ever seen a man so twisted and cruel? Brady imprisoned a young vampire girl and used childish torture instruments to inflict inhumane torture on her. This water gun is filled with sulfuric acid, isn't it? It burned the girl's face. A few days ago, the female werewolf Jules had clashed with the vampires, even killing a 560-year-old vampire with a single bite. Sealing a deep grudge, finding herself outnumbered, Jules called in the wolf pack. Brady, who harbors a deep hatred for vampires, leads the pack. Upon learning the truth, Tyler immediately confronted Caroline, demanding answers. Caroline didn't want to continue deceiving Tyler. She had her reasons, but in his rage, Tyler couldn't hear her explanations and nearly lashed out at her. At this time, the Salvatore brothers remained completely unaware of the wolf pack's infiltration into Mystic Falls. Damon learned that John had returned and planned to visit his former enemy. Stefan, however, warned his brother that John claimed to have a secret way to protect Elena, so Damon absolutely couldn't harm him. After Damon left, Stefan received a call from Caroline asking for help. Caroline didn't dare tell Damon about the situation with Tyler, knowing that Damon has zero tolerance for threats. But Stefan, being kinder, was different. Stefan then sought out Tyler, hoping they could find a peaceful resolution. Stefan's display of goodwill caused Tyler to lower his guard. However, Tyler was just distracting Stefan. Seizing the opportunity, Tyler immediately called Jules for help.
We have a problem.
Damon found his former nemesis John in the bar. John insisted that he was the only one who could protect Elena, but Damon didn't believe him. Likewise, John didn't trust the Salvatore brothers. As mentioned earlier, the originals can control ordinary vampires, and John believed that the vampire brothers stood no chance against them. Damon had already considered this problem, which is why he and Stefan had been drinking vervain tea. Just like Katherine, John was moved by the determination of the Salvatore brothers. That evening, as Caroline was heading home, she was targeted by Jules and Brady. Jules used a vervain spray against Caroline, while Brady went even further, shooting Caroline in the head. When Caroline woke up, she found herself locked in an iron cage, painfully digging the bullet out of her forehead. But the nightmare was only just beginning. Brady's greatest pleasure was torturing vampires, and he had enough toys to keep Caroline entertained all night long. Stefan received a threat from Jules, who proposed to trade Caroline for Tyler. As a hostage, Tyler was treated far better than Caroline. Meanwhile, Damon was drowning his sorrows at the bar when the town's new reporter, Andy, extended an olive branch to him, but Damon, uncharacteristically, showed no interest in her advances. Elena sees the scene with her own eyes. At that moment, Stefan called. After learning the situation, Damon immediately wanted to kill Tyler. Elena tried her best to persuade him, saying, "You need to be the better man," but what Damon fears most is people having expectations of him.
Be the better man, Damon.
Just then, John arrived, and for once, they shared the same opinion. Elena must not get involved in the rescue. Brady used all his torture devices on Caroline: sulfuric acid, a water pistol and toothpicks, blowpipes and so on. He was having a blast. He was such a pervert. Even his partner Jules couldn't bear to watch and advised Brady to tone it down. Before long, Stefan arrived with Tyler, hoping that after the hostage exchange, the werewolves would leave town. At that moment, Damon also showed up.
My brother, the peacemaker.
Damon planned to try his brother's way first, but if that didn't work, he had a bloodier solution in mind. At Jules' command, the hidden werewolves emerged, forcing the Salvatore brothers to release Tyler. but Brady reneged on the deal and ordered the pack to attack the Salvatore brothers. However, without the power of the full moon, the werewolves were no match for the vampires. Though surrounded, the Salvatore brothers handled the situation with ease. Damon swiftly ripped out a werewolf's heart, clean and quick. During the chaos, Tyler slipped into the RV. Faced with Caroline's pleas for help, Tyler hesitated but eventually released her from the cage. The battle was nearing its end. Though vampires are stronger than werewolves, they were outnumbered, and the werewolves had guns. Just as Caroline escaped from her cage, she was captured by Jules again, but Tyler remained indifferent. As Brady was about to kill the Salvatore brothers, he suddenly felt a sharp, splitting headache. The newcomer was none other than the warlock Jonas. Elijah had indeed kept his word. Although the Salvatore brothers were under Elijah's protection, they had been secretly plotting to eliminate him. Neither of them wanted Elena's fate to be in someone else's hands. The werewolves had already passed out, and Jonas told Tyler to deliver a message to them.
They need to get the hell out of this town.
Caroline, battered and bruised, had been left with psychological scars. Though she hid it well, alone in front of the mirror, she licked her wounds, not wanting to distract her friends. When Matt invited her out, Caroline lied, saying she was with Bonnie. Matt didn't call out Caroline's lie because he saw Bonnie flirting with Jeremy. Matt is about to misunderstand again. At that moment, a remorseful Tyler came to see Caroline, but she was already too hurt by him. When the werewolves were about to kill her, Tyler had just stood there, doing nothing. Defeated, Tyler returned to the wolf pack, where Brady held a simple initiation ceremony for him. Drink this, and we'll be brothers. Tyler was not impressed. As he questioned Brady's methods, Brady, too, regretted his actions, admitting that his impulsiveness had cost them so many of their brothers. But when Tyler mentioned the Moonstone, Brady and Jules, who had been disheartened, suddenly perked up. Even with the original's vampire in town, they were willing to take the risk to get the Moonstone. It was too important to them. To comfort Caroline, the kind-hearted Stefan called Elena and Bonnie over. Later that night, John approached Damon and brought a secret weapon, an ancient dagger and a vial of white oak ashes. A dagger coated with white oak ashes could kill the original's vampires. John told Damon that Isabel had uncovered this information, and she was currently working on something monumental. If Isabel succeeded, Klaus would never be able to step foot in this town. After John left, Damon, having just gone through a bloody battle, immediately switched to pleasure mode. He invited reporter Andy over for a bath, and once they were clean, they could have dinner. Sealed in the tomb, Katherine was visited by an unexpected guest.
Does Stefan know that you're here right now?
No one does.
I want out of this tomb, John.
I'm already on it.
John, who has come to rescue Katherine,